Day two of the 49ers free agency open tampering period is under about halfway through, or we're working our way through it. We're going to have the 49ers. Has the roster gotten worse so far in free agency? We're going to discuss that next on Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. Hey, everybody. It is Tuesday night. Normally, it's the Hammer and Nail show on Tuesday night. We got a little bit of a change up, though, tonight. I'm bringing on the one and only the Wayne Breezie onto the Inside the Fire show with Jack Hammer tonight. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing real good, man. I'm excited. It's free agent frenzy time. 49ers made a big old splash on day one. It's day two. And the funny thing is, Jack, like the new league year doesn't start till tomorrow at 4 p.m. So it's going to be even more interesting to see what happens.
That's right. There's all these moves, everything, all these reports that we're hearing right now, for the most part, when it comes to the free agent guys, Javon Hargrave and so on. Those aren't actually official till tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Players could pull out. That happened last year with one of the players that happened with. It was the guy who was Zadarius Smith. He was he had agreed to terms on a deal with the Baltimore Ravens, and then decided to pull out before it became official. And yeah, so we'll see how it works out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Real quick before we get started, I just want to shout out a couple of folks over in the comment section. Raphael 5629ers, who's telling us that Samson Ebukam signed with the Colts. Lucas Pesci.
You knew that was I don't know if he priced himself out, but I don't think he panned out for the 40. I don't think the 49ers got the production that they thought they were going to get for Ebukam, and they weren't going to pay him what he was probably looking for as an edge rusher.
No, you look at the deal right here. Lucas says it's 3 years, $27 million. 3 years, $27 million for a guy who's a good defensive end. Doesn't get to the quarterback. He's hit his career high this year at 5, after being at 4.5. I think the 2 or 3 years before that. That's a lot of money for a guy that doesn't get a lot of production in terms of getting to the quarterback.
Yeah. It's. I know people are like, "Oh man, where's our depth going? We're losing players." Don't worry, the 49ers will bolster up the depth. I promise you. And don't forget, guys, we still have the draft, so the 49ers will bolster. They'll fill in that depth.
Yeah. I agree. Let's just run through them because I haven't talked to you about these deals yet. Javon Hargrave, that's the first, free agent, the open tampering period just barely got underway, and the 49ers they didn't make a little splash. They did a cannonball, off the off the high dive into the deep end of the pool to open up free agency, going with Javon Hargrave, 4 years, $84 million, $40 million guaranteed. What are your thoughts on that deal?
Hey, listen, I wanted a defensive tackle, and I wanted Javon Hargrave. It was Deron Payne, Javon Hargrave in that exact order. After that, I was willing to draft a guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was Deron Payne, got franchise tagged, got his deal with the Washington Commanders. Then I was all in on Hargrave. And it was just like, we got to get this guy in here, because I feel like the San Francisco 49ers issue on defense mainly is getting pressure and creating pressure up front. It's not necessarily just stopping the run. I mean, they can find ways to stop the run, even though that's how they got beat in the NFC Championship, but they can figure that out. But it's more like, how can we stop the run and create pressure with the defensive tackle? They got the best defensive tackle on the market. They went last year and got the best cornerback on the market that fit them. I think they did the same thing this year with a defensive tackle, and they got Javon Hargrave, 4 year, up to $84 million, $40 million guaranteed.
Yeah, they addressed what was probably one of their biggest needs. A defensive tackle they can get to the quarterback was something that this team was missing. I think safety was an issue, but they already, they signed that, had solved that already with Tayshaun Gibson. So I think they're kind of telegraphing a little bit there where they're going to go in the draft. And then same thing with Colt McKivitz at right tackle. So that kind of took that spot off the board in terms of a over the top type of signing, I think. So Hargrave, 4 years, $84 million. This is a good signing. The best part, this guy has been very productive.
Mhm.
in his career. And what I really like about him is he's only missed 3 games in 6 seasons, which is awesome. And over
Durability.
the last two
Durability,
years,
yeah.
he's played over 715 snaps the last 2 seasons.
See?
Pair him with Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa, watch out.
See? And that durability means everything, right? And you know what? I don't listen too much to Chris Sims, but Chris Sims, when he found out the news on his show, he was so shocked. He got super excited. He brought up this, and Jack, let me get your thoughts on this. He said, you can go Nick Bosa, you can go Javon Kinlaw, Javon Hargrave, and Eric Armstead on your base downs. I guess that's kind of like what he was saying. Move Armstead back to where he naturally on that end. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, you could do that. You can get Armstead back out on the edge to kind of be your on early downs as far as your edge setter, I guess, if that's the direction you want to go. I don't think the Flyers are going to do that though. I don't think that makes the most sense. Eric Armstead on the edge struggles, and it's been pointed out a number of times. And this goes back to when Robert Saleh was with the 49ers. He struggles at setting the edge. He's much better playing on the interior of the defense. I think the 49ers are much better if they have Bosa and Hargrave in the middle along with Armstead.
Mm-hmm.
Remember now in 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl, Armstead didn't start the season off inside. He was still kind of bouncing around, right?
Correct.
But he was at his best when he was lined up on the interior.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just matches better with what the 49ers need. So I hope they don't go that direction. I hope they stick with what they have and bring in a guy like Yannick Ngakoue here in free agency to be your another guy off the bench to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, the free agent that I was hoping that they would have brought in here was Marcus Davenport, and he ended up getting signed to the Minnesota Vikings, if I'm not mistaken. He agreed to terms with the Minnesota Vikings, so I thought that would be the edge. But Ngakoue is a kid you could bring in here. Had some injury issues, but listen, they need to figure out the depth. I wouldn't be surprised if they also re-sign defensive end, defensive / tackle. I guess Kerry Hyder Jr. Seems like he's a guy that they'll probably try to bring back here just to keep some rotational depth pieces. You know, he's a tweener. He can go inside, he can go outside, and he can get you production on both. And then they're going to probably look to draft a kid or two. So they're definitely going to fill in that depth. Me personally, my defensive lineup is simply Nick Bosa on one end, Drake Jackson on the other end, Hargrave and Armstead on the inside. There's a possibility that they may even move on from Javon Kinlaw.
Yeah, well, yeah. In terms of Kinlaw, if they're going to move off of him, I think they're going to give him a chance to make the team and show that he's improved and he deserves some run. Because they're at this point, that doesn't give them any sense. I think if Javon Kinlaw leaves the 49ers, it's going to be in training camp, maybe at the end of training camp or something like that. If they can, maybe he shows well enough that some team wants to give up a draft pick or something like that. We'll see. A couple things on just topics that were talked about already. Luke Walsh says Armstead was better versus guards going back to his Oregon days.
Yeah,
that's correct. Luke's a longtime follower over the 49ers.press Democrat inside the 49ers blog over there. So he's heard all those conversations and he's a really good commenter over there. Wanted to make sure I threw that out there. Terror Dome says Hargrave has upgraded us and downgraded Philly. Manna from heaven, lay $100 for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. This season, it's going to happen in 2024 out in Vegas. So I find it hard to disagree with that. I do think the 49ers are a better team. Well, we're going to get into it now, but I think they're a better defensive front right now than they were at the end of last season.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you, Jack. I'm with Terror Dome. Look, the 49ers, you win games in the trenches, you lose games in the trenches. Remember, I kept saying we need to build the defensive trench. Like, to me, I know our offensive line needs some work, but it can be worked out. But the defensive line needs to be stout just about all season long. And where did the 49ers fluster? The defensive interior. How did they fluster in the defensive interior? injuries. You brought in Hassan Ridgway on a 1-year deal, and congratulations to him. He's moving on to Houston, I believe. That's where he's going. You brought Hassan Ridgway in on a 1-year deal. You were like, they could not run on you. He was great at stopping the run. And then you mixed in Kevin Givens when you were on your pass rushing downs, your third and longs, and things like that. And then Ridgway goes down. What happens? Cats start gushing us up the middle for big run gains. And then Javon Kinlaw was just never, ever able to get healthy. And so with that, like the interior was a problem. And then I hate to result back into the NFC Championship game, Jack, but they rushed for 3 rushing touchdowns. I don't think the 49ers gave up that many touchdowns like all season, man. Like I'm being facetious, but like that was an anomaly because their run defense usually is stout, even in situations. They would find ways to stop them. How many goal line stops did we have? Like you could not run on this defense, but that's where we got beat. Right up the middle, bro. Right up the middle. So they solved that with Hargrave. Love the sign.
I think so. I think it was a really good one, and we're gonna move on real quick. But a couple folks want to shout out a couple of ladies over there. We have Maria 49 Faithfully.
Right.
How you doing, Mariah? Hope you're doing well. And then we also had it's up here a little bit. Just let me scroll up. She was in here earlier. There she is. Peachy Brown says, "What's up, Jack and Wayne? How you doing, Peachy? Hope everybody's doing good." The other thing, and this came up, it was so Javon Hargrave, it's going to fill that need on the inside. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. I think it really makes this defense better. The other move that the 49ers made yesterday in terms of a new player coming in was the signing of Sam Darnold. Interesting contract with this one, right? It was reported originally as 1 year, $4.5 million with a $3.5 million signing bonus. Details are starting to come out now, and it's actually, to me, it looks like the Sam Darnold deal is basically the Jimmy Garoppolo deal with just maybe a little bit lower, in terms of the money.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, he could make up to 11 something million dollars off of incentives. But I asked myself this. See, Jack, this is what's getting to me, bro, because I'm saying to myself, I don't dislike the signing. I just don't agree with the signing. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I'm okay with Sam Darnold. I think him being here would definitely help him out more than he would help the 49ers. I think he would actually be a great quarterback in this system. But in order to be that, Jack, he has to play. And so now I'm getting nervous because now I'm saying to myself, and I talked about this on Nitty Gritty Niners Talk last night, and I don't want to trade Trey Lance. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't think the 49ers will trade Trey Lance. That's not what I'm saying. But you're bringing in another kid that's 25 years old, that's competitive as heck. And this was before I even knew the breakdown of his contract, Jack. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, he's already competitive. And now you're telling me he can make $11+ million if he competes? The kid's going to want to go out there and play. So that means he's going to put on his best performance, his best shoes, his big boy draws. He's going to go out there and really aim to be the number 1 quarterback, right? I mean, wouldn't you? And so this is what's confusing me a little bit, because why would the Niners sign him when they could have just got the veteran like an Andy Dalton, who's not trying to be a number 1 quarterback, who went, I forgot where he ended up going, who's not trying to be a number 1 quarterback. He could come in and just pass some time. If Trey's struggling, okay, whatever, until Brock Purdy's clear to play. The Sam Darnold is going to throw a wrinkle into this, and it's going to be interesting to see how it folds out. I'm here for it, though. I got my camera, I got my popcorn, I got everything ready for the quarterback controversy.
The quarterback controversy has Wayne fired up. Listen to that. He got excited about that one. I mean, that contract screams to me that he thinks he's going to have a shot to play, because you don't sign a contract like all that if you don't think you're going to have a chance to go out and become the play, right? Or get in the game and whatnot. He's going to have an opportunity. This has been talked about all offseason, by myself and others and you guys and, everybody. Where's Trey Lance fit within the system, within the 49ers? How much do they believe in him? And I do think that there's a belief, but at the same time, here's the way that I see this playing out. And we had a Patoba Hammer wanted to ask. He asked, "Was Sam Darnold signed? What does this mean for Trey Lance?" And
I didn't even see this comment. What's going on?
I think what it means for Trey Lance is in a competition. this is a competition for the first, say what you want. You can say that it's not a competition, but it's a competition between
Yes,
Trey
sir.
Lance and Sam Darnold. What I found interesting about this whole thing is I saw a comment earlier today from Brian Rennick, who's 49ers press Democrat, not 49ers press Democrat. What am I talking about? 49ers Web Zone, and he does a couple of his own stuff. And he was talking about, you look at Sam Darnold and you see flashes of a guy who can make plays, who's extreme uber athletic and can make all those throws. And I responded back to him. I said, that sounds really familiar. And the reason I said that to him I wasn't trying to be a smart jerk or anything to him. I was like, that's exactly what we heard Kyle Shanahan say in August of last year about Trey Lance. He talked to, he had an interview with Albert Breer last year during training camp in which he said, there just wasn't enough film on Trey Lance to really see him. You could see it all, but it wasn't a lot of it, right? There just wasn't enough snaps to do it. And so you could see flashes. And so you could see the potential was there, but it just wasn't enough where you could see it happening on a regular basis. I think that's where you are with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a guy who has all the tools. He's got the arm. He clearly has the ability to move. He's just whatever. Like, he hasn't been in a spot where he's been in a, look at who he's played for, Adam Gase. I mean, holy smokes, that guy was awful, and then what they had in Carolina. I think we're looking at this being a quarterback competition. And, I think Brock Purdy's health is going to tell us a lot about how this thing's going to play out.
I'm okay if Brock needs time, because I'm telling you, I've got the popcorn, I've got the juju beans, I got everything ready, because Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold, two former first round overall third selection picks from 2018 and 2021. 2020. This is going to be amazing to watch. And I'm hoping the Niners don't trade this kid. The only way Trey Lance gets traded, guys, and let me just put this out here, because I know people think Breezie wants to trade Trey Lance. Stop. It's not what I'm saying. The only way he's traded is if a team says, hey, man, I'll give you a first round pick, and that pick is like a top 15 pick. That's the only way he's getting traded. The Niners don't want to move off from him. The contract says otherwise. They're not moving on. 49ers got the one of the youngest, cheapest quarterback rooms in the league, and is going to stay that way for the next several years. Trey Lance will be here. I just think that Sam Darnold makes this situation a little bit more difficult, because coming out of college, you would say Sam Darnold was better than Trey Lance, correct? I would say that he was a champion in college. I mean, USC, highlight games, big stage. Mm-hmm. No? Yes? I don't know. I would say coming out of college, he was better. Like you said, he got drafted. He went to the freaking Jets. What more can I say? Then he gets traded to the Panthers. What more can I say? And now, okay, he's going to be with the 49ers. This will be the best system he's ever been in. On top of that, he will have top A grade weapons. He has a tight end. He has a plethora of receivers. He has Christian McCaffrey back, right? Like, he'll have a solid offensive line. He has a fullback that can protect him. Don't forget, I'm not saying that Sam Darnold is a running quarterback, but he got some big runs and big gains. He got a 47-yard touchdown run. Don't worry, I'll post it at the end of the show just in case y'all missed it. He can run. Okay, so look, this is going to be interesting, guys. Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I like everything that you said. I have a little bit different look at the way that the Trey Lance trade scenario is going to go down. Okay, if it happens. Okay, this is how Trey Lance, if he gets traded by the 49ers this year, this is the way it's going to go down. Okay, I'm listening. Right now, they only have two guys: Trey Lance, Sam Darnold. They're going to draft a quarterback. They're not going. I don't think they're going into OTAs and minicamp with another quarterback. Without another quarterback. So they're going to draft somebody. So you're going to go into this thing and you're going to have a competition between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance for a spot on this roster in one way or another. Let's say Brock Purdy proves that he's healthy and he's going to be able to start week 1. Let's say everything works out perfectly for his rehab, and he's able to return midway through training camp, and he is healthy enough that he's going to start for the 49ers week 1, and that's who they decide that they believe on is going to be their long-term scenario quarterback. They go through this whole process. Sam Darnold outperforms Trey Lance. This rookie has a training camp preseason similar to Brock Purdy, and that they believe enough that they can keep him. That's when Trey Lance gets traded. If Trey Lance is going to get traded by the 49ers, it is happening in the middle to end of training camp when they know that they have 3 other quarterbacks that are in place, because that is also the time that when you look at Trey Lance's, the way his contract is set up, trading him now makes no sense because you're going to lose about $1.5 million against the salary cap. So actually almost closer to 2 because of the dead cap hit. If you trade Trey Lance in training camp after June 1, when you know that you already have the quarterback situation figured out, at that point, it becomes, I think it's like $5 million in dead cap. So because it gets rolled over because it's a post-June 1 trade.
Correct.
I think if the 49ers trade Trey Lance, it happens in training camp for a second, third, or whatever. But that only happens if they know that Brock Purdy is healthy, if they know that Sam Darnold is playing well, and the rookie is showing that he can be the third string guy for a long time.
So you're saying that the 49ers, if they do happen to trade Trey, it's going to be for the future, not this particular draft. It'll be post June 1st, which is after the draft, and they'll look to get a pick for 2024 draft, and they'll be able to save money on that cap because they'll get about $5 million for the next cap that comes in for 2024. So that's your theory on that. Okay.
It'll save them cap space. It'll save them cap space this year. Right?
This year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they'll have a little bit of a dead cap hit in 2024 because that's the way that, post June 1 cuts. And so post June 1 cuts and post June 1 trades, you get dinged in the second year as well in terms of dead cap. So that's the way that I see it playing out if it happens. Now, do I think that Trey Lance is going to be traded? If you're asking me to put a bet on it in Las Vegas, the answer to that is no. I'm not putting money down that Trey Lance is going to be traded. But is there a possible scenario in which he could be traded? I think it's safe to say yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. You know what I'm saying? It's a possibility. I don't know if it's a strong possibility. I think Kyle Shanahan is in the area of competitiveness, and the only time he wasn't being competitive with his quarterbacks is when Trey Lance was drafted, and we still had Jimmy Garoppolo. Now that Jimmy Garoppolo's far gone, well, he's only in Vegas, which is not that far away, but now he's far gone from San Francisco and off this roster. I think he's all about competition. I don't care what the position is. And for Trey Lance, you know what? I like this a little bit for the simple fact that this can light a fire under his ass, and he just come out blazing. And then they could be like, okay, this is what we wanted from our guy. This is why we traded up to get Trey Lance. And I will tell you this, Trey Lance is a student of the game. Clearly he makes way less mistakes than Sam Darnold, but he also played less football than Sam Darnold. Now, Sam Darnold is an interception machine. I don't know how much that has to do with playing in New York for the Jets or playing in Carolina with bad defenses, bad offenses, bad this, bad that. I mean, it's kind of hard for a quarterback to not make the mistakes. But again, I'm going to judge him once he gets into camp and how well he plays in camp. Being now he's going to be playing against the best defense. He's also going to have an array of weapons, and I want to see how really well he plays, with that type of setup. And if he does, then the 49ers got them a nice, solid number 2, number 3 situation. I also think they also bring a quarterback in. I don't think they draft another quarterback. I think they re-signed. I'm just gonna say his name. I think Josh Johnson gets signed to the practice squad. I didn't want to say his name out loud. That's why I whispered it.
You're afraid of the Josh Johnson backlash there.
He'll be on the practice squad, guys. I'm sorry. It costs $2, and he can imitate other quarterbacks. That's where he's probably gonna go. Practice squad.
And there's a possibility of it. It's not a total impossibility. There at all.
Sudfield, one of the two will be on this practice squad. I don't even know.
No, yeah. I think you're probably right. Luke comes in here too, and he says, "I like Trey. He could be great. I never liked spending 3 first-round picks to get him, and I understand that as well. That's part of that's part of why Trey Lance has some of the pressure that he has on him. If they just sat where they were and taken him at their normal draft spot, I think the pressure on him would be a little bit different. I think the Trey Lance pressure also, when you look at it, I don't think that there's as much pressure on Trey Lance like within the 49ers walls as there just is on 49ers Twitter. I think 49ers Twitter puts a lot more pressure on Trey Lance than anywhere else on him because of the guys who think that he's going to be great and they keep saying he's going to be great. And we haven't seen any. We've seen, like Kyle Shanahan said, we've seen flashes of greatness, but we haven't seen any kind of consistency. That's what's going to be the deciding factor, I think, in this quarterback race this year between these guys. So it'll be fun. We'll see how it works out. But Trey Lance, come on down. It's your turn. In addition, some other moves the 49ers made yesterday. They've been pretty quiet today. Kevin Givens comes back. Tayshaun Gibson coming back. Colton McKivitz coming back.
Love it.
The one big move today was Jake Brendel. That's actually the one move that the 49ers made today. Bringing back a center, 4-year deal from what I understand, $20 million, $8 million guaranteed, I think it was.
Yep.
So when you look at the other moves the 49ers have made, what do you think of Givens, Gibson, McKivitz, and Brendel?
Well, they brought back pieces that were solid, right? You brought back your interception leader and your top run defender and the backfield, which was Tashawn Gibson. He's able to stop the run. He's there. He's in there, and you know that. You know it on that one play that AJ Green scored a touchdown because he bit so hard on the freaking run, bro. Like you just know he's a run stopping type of safety. He's got to work on his pass coverage, and I think he will. Second year in the system, be a new system, maybe a more friendly system because it's ran by Steve Wilkes now and not DeMeco Ryans, to where it's more catered toward the defensive backs. We'll see how that is. More single high safety. He played a lot of single high safety last year with him and Hufanga, kind of splitting it off every now and then. And so I'm excited for Tashawn Gibson. I'm glad he's coming back for another year. Kind of one of those team veteran deals where he's gonna, go out there, bet on himself. And listen, 5 interceptions, led the team with interceptions. 49ers, let me just remind you, if they had a total of 20 interceptions last year, they were tied for first, if I'm not mistaken, and interceptions. That's huge. Now, they lessened in sacks. They kind of dropped off in sacks. But as far as takeaways, they definitely upgraded. And so you bring that back. That's why Gibson is back. I'm glad he's back. Still think we drafted safety, though. Who else did you talk about? Colton McKivitz. I mean, that was one of those team type of signings. They were like, hey, man, let's try to get him in here. We're not going to tender him. It's going to cost us a little bit more money. Let's offer him a deal. Let's see if he takes it. Now you bring back your swing tackle that has potential to be your starting tackle. All right. So he was definitely the swing tackle for last year, dealt with injuries, had to kind of switch out with Jalen Moore. Those are your two tackles, your two tackle reserves, I would say right now. To me, Colton McKivitz is your starting right tackle until somebody beats him out. I really think he is. It is what it is. Do you feel like we've upgraded over Mike McGlinchey? Well, I mean, we'll have to see. I think he's definitely better in pass protection, and I thought Mike McGlinchey was better in run blocking. So we're going to have to see. Let's stick with the offensive line. You talked about Jake Brendel. Listen, there were two centers that I wanted. It was I wanted Garrett Bradbury or you brought Jake Brendel back. And I'm sorry, the 49ers brought back a Pro Bowl alternate kid, a kid that was the first time he's ever played and started at center, which was with the San Francisco 49ers. He's been in the league for a little while. He's a little older as a center, but they signed him to a 4-year deal. So that says something to me, Jack. I'm not sure they even look for a center in the draft because I think they feel like they have a center that they're developing right now on the roster, either in Nick Zakil, maybe Jason Poe. One of those guys are probably going to be the predecessor to the center position. So you bring back the veteran, you allow him to come back in here. His run blocking grade was or whatever like that. But year 2 in the system, depending on how they choose to run the ball, still stick with the zone, maybe go more power. I don't know. Maybe he'll get better. You know what I'm saying? But I like the 4-year deal, $8 million guaranteed, real friendly with the cap. Who else am I missing? Who else did I miss? I think I got everybody.
Yeah, I think for the most part you got everybody. I think you look at the signings that the 49ers have made so far. It's been good. They've done what the 49ers do in free agency, which is they plug their holes.
Correct.
They might make one or big 2 splash signings, but they're going to plug all the holes that they have so that when it comes time to draft, they're not telegraphing where they're going to go. So you look at where they are right now. What does McKivitz do? He gives them a right tackle option. Do I think it? You're not writing his name down in marker right now. If you're putting him in pencil at right tackle. So
I got
to explain what I'm saying, you're putting him in pencil because that way you can erase it, right? That's why you put him in pencil. So he's penciled in there at right tackle. I think he's locked in at center. I think that's a really good signing. I love his athleticism. Wish he was a little bit better in pass protection, but as an overall player, you already mentioned he was a Pro Bowl alternate. So good signing there. I like bringing back Kevin Givens. Givens finished tied for second on the 49ers last year as a rotational guy with 7 tackles for loss. So I like that signing. Gibson, good signing there. It's a 1-year deal, $2.9 million, only 2.1 against the cap. What you like about the Gibson thing is this is a sign. Again, they're plugging the hole with a veteran that they know can play. They're going to draft somebody. And I bet you they're going to draft somebody they think they can develop to become Talon Hufanga in year 2. That's the direction that they're going there. So I really like that. I think they've done a really good job with those. And we're going to talk in a minute about, are they better or worse? But before we get to that, let's look at the guys they lost. Mike McGlinchey to Denver, Jimmy Garoppolo to Vegas, Jimmy Ward went out to Houston, Hassan Ridgeway went to Houston as well. Yep. And then Samson Ibicom, who we just heard about going to Indianapolis. Looking at that deal, it's 3 years, $27 million. According to the report that I saw while you were talking, it was he's going to get $11 million in year 1 of that contract, which is good. But remember, that's because he's getting a signing bonus.
Correct.
His cap hit's going to be manageable. He's probably going to be backloaded and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Also, did you mention Azeez Al-Shaair going to Indianapolis?
I did not. I did not mention Azeez Al-Shaair went to Indy, and then you also had.
Did he go to Indy?
Azeez Al-Shaair, no, he went to Tennessee.
Yeah, he went to Tennessee. He's with Ron. That's right.
And then there was one other one. They were just mentioning in the comment section. Emmanuel Mosley signing with the
Detroit
with the Detroit Lions, 1 year, $6 million deal, according to the report. So
now a lot of faithful were kind of upset. They were like, why didn't the 49ers why wouldn't they re-sign him at $6 million? I mean, let me ask you this question. Would you re-sign? I love Emmanuel Mosley. I thought he should have came back, but I know the 49ers lowballed the heck out of him, right? It was probably one of those Jason Verrett 1 year. I don't remember what Verrett's deal was. Probably was $4 million at the max. So they probably hit him with a 1 year, $4 million deal, right? Would you have tried to pay? Would you pay more than that for a kid coming off of an ACL injury?
And here's the thing, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I seem to remember there was like a conversation recently about how the 49ers are one of the most injury-prone teams in the league on a regular basis.
That's true.
And it makes sense that they didn't do it. They, didn't go out and get this guy. So really quick, I'm going to ask you the question. And I think my answer will that you just asked me is going to come up in it. Okay. So we're going to get to the topic of the show now. Is the 49ers roster worse right now than it was in the NFC Championship game? Because this is something that I've heard from a couple of different sources. Do you believe that the 49ers roster is worse than they were then?
It's hard to say that I believe that they were worse. I don't think it's fully filled yet. Mm-hmm. So if it's not fully filled, then it's incomplete. I don't think it's worse. So I automatically think it's better. Once you signed Javon Hargrave, it instantly got better for me. Like it instantly got better. And then you address the trenches on the defense, and then they address the trenches on the offense. They got their center. You can't play football without a center. So in my opinion, that's amazing. You got your center back. That means you're only plugging in one spot on the offensive line. Whereas last year, how many spots we had to plug in? 2. You had to plug in your left guard. Was it 3? Yeah, 2. Your left guard and your right guard and your center. We had to plug in 3 spots. Now we're only plugging in one spot. You got your left tackle, you got your left guard in Aaron Banks, you got Jake Brendel back, you got your right guard in Spencer Burford, who was a rookie last year. That's a plug-in. You figure he's going to come back and start. And now you just got to figure out this right tackle spot. So in my opinion, we gotten better. It's simple. You improved on the trenches. You got your safety back, which he led the league in interceptions. I know I'm yelling, but he led the league in interceptions. It wasn't Jesse Bates. It was Deshaun Gibson. So on top of that, well, he led the 49ers, in interceptions. So he was high up there in the top 5 in interceptions. My apologies. He didn't lead the league. He led the 49ers. I can get that list for you. But my point is, you got a playmaker back there, which is everybody wants a ball hawking, playmaking safety. Well, you got one. So in my opinion, they got better because they brought back some of the key pieces that gave them the number 1 defense, that gave them a top scoring offense in the league toward the end of the season. And then they upgrade. I don't know if you want to say they upgraded in the quarterback room, but they fulfilled the quarterback room because losing Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't play last year much anyway, but losing him to me is a downgrade. But you did fulfill that quarterback room. So I feel like they got better.
See, I'm going to tell you right now, the folks in the comment section, they like the fact that the Wayne Breezie was yelling. They like that. They're glad to see you get fired up. And we got Luke over here. He says that the Friars are worse: slot cornerback, right tackle, place kicker. Then he says the better is that you have a better backup quarterback, a better 3 tech. So he's going in both directions.
So let's put that back up there because I want to address. I love Luke. I want to address Luke's things because I like this, right? Because we don't have a place kicker, but come on, guys. We know right now Robbie Gould is probably at that 50-50 mark. Word on the street is there's a 50% chance he's going to be a 49er again or a different team. So it's 2 teams it's coming down to. It's probably coming down to the guaranteed money. And if not, they draft the kicker. Look, I get you. Place kicker, right tackle. I don't know if it's much of a downgrade. We don't know. I watched Colton McKivitz come in and play well. I did. I also watched him come in and get beat. I also watched Mike McGlinchey get tossed around with 1 arm. What are we saying here? There's a possibility that McKivitz may just be better. We don't know yet. I don't think he's that much worse. Let's talk about slot cornerback. I mean, Jimmy Ward, it was new to him, sort of, kind of. He had a bunch of brain farts. At one point, when Jimmy played, he was giving up 100% completion percentage, yo. I think I like our chances. And if you address the cornerback situation, let's say they bring in the kid from Jacksonville, they sign him as a free agent, Trey Hardon. I can't think his last name. Let's say they do that. You go ahead and now you got Deommodore Lenoir and you got Samuel Womack competing for the slot. In my opinion, I think we might be better there. So I like the logic because that's what we lost. I like that logic. That's what we lost. So you could be right, Luke, but I still feel we got better. I feel like our roster is better.
Yeah, no, and it's good. What Luke is, he's not saying that it's worse or better. He's saying where they've got worse and where they've gotten better. Now, slot cornerback, absolutely. So really quick though, I'm going to take this off so that I can talk without being distracted because I'm a little, sometimes I get too much stuff going on at once. Pouring rain outside, and I got you screaming at me, and I got to try to get my thoughts in order. And no, it's good. The 49ers, are they worse now than they were in the NFC Championship game? I find that hard to say that they are. You look at this offense, Mike McGlinchey, I think that's a loss. But like you said, Mike McGlinchey is better than Colton McKivitz. Now, can they win games with Colton McKivitz at right tackle? Yeah, I think they can. I'm just kind of going through it. They lost Emmanuel Mosley. Big loss. But you know what? Emmanuel Mosley, last time I checked, he didn't play a game after week 5.
Yeah, it's just tough. And they had
right. So, that's a loss. I don't know. I look through it. I can say that I don't know if they're necessarily worse. I don't think they're necessarily better. I think they're right around the same level.
That's fair.
The thing, I hit on it a little bit earlier, right? If you're saying that the 49ers have an issue with injuries, but the 49ers at this point are worse than they were in the NFC Championship game, you can't have it both ways because the majority of the guys that the 49ers lost, they've lost them because, well, they don't play. And, I tallied it up. The guys that they lost missed 33 games this last season. And that's not including Samson Ebukam, and because they hadn't been at that point, but Azeez Al-Shaair, Emmanuel Mosley, Hassan Reddick or Hassan Ridgeway, and so on. Those guys were guys that were dealing with injuries all throughout their time with the Furnace. Jimmy Ward wasn't a starter. The reason Jimmy Ward was playing in the slot was because he was injured. And because he was injured, Tayshaun Gibson took his job from him. So are the 49ers necessarily better? Are they necessarily? I don't know right now. I think it's that they're in a good spot. I think they have the ability to. Again, it's day 2 of free agency, and so possibly, like you said, right now they might be a little worse, but I don't think so. I think it's kind of what they got at defensive tackle overrides some of the other things that have happened to them. You know what I'm saying?
And can I just add this little caveat? They upgraded on the defensive front, which means your secondary is probably going to play better. And so you don't need the superstar pieces at that secondary position because you just brought in a person that's going to A, disrupt the pass, and B, create pressures. And so creating pressures forces turnovers. Forces turnovers allows guys that are rookies to get interceptions. This is why I feel like they've gotten better, because you addressed the number one need, which was that interior pass rush. I'm telling you, that was it. That was it. It was the interior pass rush. You saw what Nick Bosa could do on the outside with pretty much no help from everybody else. And 5 sacks, Ebukam, 4 sacks, Omenihu, and then the numbers drop, right? It's not really help. Can you imagine, Jack, if we had that 2019 D Ford with the 2022 Nick Bosa?
Right? Yes.
Now that, my friends, because I think we still had DeForest Buckner with Armstead on the. Can you just imagine? Man, I will say this, though. I feel like the 49ers at defensive tackle, this would be the best defensive tackle they've had since 1994, 5. I'll leave it at that. You figure out who I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm excited to see it. If he can be if this interior duo of Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave can be as good as Dana Stubblefield and Bryant Young were in 1994, which is basically what you just said, the 49ers are going to be probably playing in the Super Bowl because you're going to get interior pressure, because that's one of the biggest things, right? This takes you back to 2019. That's why I say I don't know if it's necessarily because DeForest Buckner was an all-pro caliber player.
Facts.
And Eric Armstead was doing a heck of a job on the interior when D Ford. So they had a really good pass rush in there. And what that showed was how, now you got Nick Bosa, who just put up 18.5 sacks with nobody around him, right? Really, because Eric Armstead was out so much with injuries and nobody else was getting to the quarterback. Now you got Nick Bosa with all these guys around him. I kind of agree with you. I think this defensive front is going to be problems.
I know I'd be reaching, Jack, but I really feel like, and I know I haven't seen him play one down with the San Francisco 49ers yet. And people think I'm crazy. That's fine. I'm crazy. I am who I am. But I really feel like, because I feel like Hargrave is a better defensive tackle than DeForest Buckner.
And that's fine. And that's fine. I don't think you're crazy at all, because he could be. We just haven't, because we haven't seen him play
here. But we've seen him produce. Just like, to me, Buckner was better as a 49er than he was a Colt. I don't care what anybody say. I just feel like he was a better 49er. He fit the 49ers. I think Hargrave comes in here and fits that 3 technique. He fills that junk in so well. I just excited. Question is, what number will he wear? I think that's the only thing we want to know. Is it going to be a 93? Is it going to be 99? If
90, I think it's gonna be 93, because he started the picture that I used for this show shows him in a 93 jersey with the Eagles. Yeah, so I think he'd wore 93 prior, and I think there was a number change somewhere along the way.
His collegiate number was 97, guys. So if you want to know the story behind it, his college number was 97. Once the player that was wearing 97 from the Eagles left, he went and took the number 97. But Jack is right. When he got signed to the Eagles, he did wear 93.
So I think it's going to be 93. But I don't think you're crazy. I think you could be onto something. And here's the thing, right? I might come back to you earlier was that DeForest Buckner was an all-pro. Well, You know, he was an all-pro in his first year with the Colts. I think part of the reason he was an all-pro in that first year with the Colts, though, was because of the terrific season he had the year before with the 49ers, right? Because it kind of got his name on the map. He had a terrific year last year, Javon Hargrave did with the Eagles. He's on the map. If he can come back and he does anything close to that, and the 49ers have a big season, we're probably talking about Javon Hargrave being named in a first-team All-Pro. Just the way that it works out. So, hey, I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying,
you don't have to. They will. I don't mind. They know I'm crazy, bro. It's
well,
all good.
You're just a wild and crazy guy, Wayne.
Wild and Crazy Kids. That's because I grew up watching Wild and Crazy Kids on Nickelodeon, man. Wild and Crazy Kids.
there you go. So, better for worse. You know what the cool part about the conversation is? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter at all, because you know what? Free agency hasn't even started yet. Free agency starts tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time,
Jack,
4 o'clock Eastern.
Jack, what if
Uh-oh.
he reneges and somebody makes him a better offer? And oh my gosh, I would cry. You wouldn't see me. I wouldn't do any shows. I would go away if that happened.
I think you might have to, because you keep speaking into existence, Wayne. I think that's like the second or third time you said that on this show. Come on, man. What are you doing?
I just
me over here.
It's because tomorrow we need 4 p.m. to happen, and we need this signed and sealed. He needs to be there right now, sleeping in the office, wake up and sign and seal, deliver this. I don't care about anything else. I need Hargrave to be a 49er.
There you go. Hey, what show do you have coming up on your channel?
That's amazing. So tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., I'm going to have Jason on the show, Jason Early. We're going to be talking about some of these cap breakdowns and how the 49ers were even able to get a guy like Javon Hargrave. That's the Wayne Breezie show. So make sure you guys check that out. It's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so there you go. So make sure you're checking it out. The Wayne Breezie, the one and only Wayne Breezie. Make sure you check him out, because he does a good job. Hey man, we just started doing this a few weeks ago. I'm having a lot of fun talking to you every week. Right. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this free agency thing kicks off tomorrow, because next Tuesday when we get back together, we're gonna have all kinds of stuff to talk about. Absolutely. I can't wait. Awesome. Well, Wayne, thank you for your time. I want to just real quick before we close the show, I just want to ask everybody, if you guys can do me a favor, I need some help. I need you guys to do me a big favor. I need you to slam that like button as hard as you can. We need that like button to be hit. And then also, if you're watching the show and you're not already a subscriber to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. When you do, also hit the little bell notification so that you don't miss anything as we go live, especially now. As we get into free agency, I'm going to be popping on with just quick updates throughout the day. Anytime there's a signing or anything like that, just to kind of let you guys know what's going on around the 49ers. So keep it locked in here to Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer for all your 49ers news and updates. Make sure you're checking out Wayne as well over at his channel. And other than that, hope everybody has a great rest of their evening tonight. And we'll be talking to you soon, everybody. Take care.